Welcome to another episode of Raven Stories. Today we're joined by my friend Lynnley. Lynnley is an amazing individual, and our conversation together was so heartwarming and refreshing. We touched on themes on being known, emotional resilience and maturity. So many insightful things come out of this conversation, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I remember in my first year feeling like I think I made a mistake. And part of the reason was, you land, you come to a place and you realize that no one knows you. And it's a very scary, weird feeling. Like, I knew absolutely nobody. And
Lily Laponga!
hi, Victoria, or Vicky as I call you.
Well, thank you for being willing to sit down together and share your immigration story. Not that I don't know your immigration story, but I think some other special person needs to hear and learn from some of the experiences you have.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I love this topic. I feel like I'm still living in my story with each year, and so I'm happy to share what's happened so far. But I feel like I'm still in the middle of the book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's start from the start.
Yeah, so I moved to Canada when I was 18, and I moved from a country called Malawi, and I'd actually never been away from home. So I had never gone to boarding school. The longest I'd been away from home was probably a 2-night sleepover. But even then, I had my brother with me, and we're visiting friends. And so moving across was a very exciting process. Like, I was very excited to discover myself, independent of my family, independent of people I'd always known, because I grew up in a town where I knew everybody.
And everybody knew you.
Everyone knew me. Like, I don't remember ever having to make friends because I was always known.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking forward to just discovering that process, detaching myself from being someone's sister, someone's daughter, and kind of coming into myself and finding my own identity. And so I jumped onto this opportunity. Yes, it was for school, but I felt like it was also for a lot of self-discovery. And when I moved here, it was a really hard process. It was everything I didn't expect. And yeah, I remember in my first year feeling like I think I made a mistake. And part of the reason was, you land, you come to a place and you realize that no one knows you. And it's a very scary, weird feeling. Like, I knew absolutely nobody. And I remember going through like a few days, my first couple of days, not saying a single word, like not talking to anybody, not having a real conversation with anyone. And, I remember sitting next to someone at school and I'm like, hey, my name is Lynnley. And they just got up and like sat on the next desk.
Oh no.
And that was like my first couple of days of experience. And it felt very strange to not be known. And so luckily at the time I was staying on campus. And so I befriended one girl from Zimbabwe, and later on, like, we started having more conversations, and sooner than later she was able to like pull me into the Zimbabwean community, which was really good.
Because there weren't lots of Malawians here.
No, there was no I think I only knew 2 Malawians. One of them, he stayed off campus, and so I like barely knew my way around Winnipeg, and so that was challenging. And then the other person, she was a lady, and she lived at least an hour 40 or so on a bus away from me.
Wow.
And she was like in her mid 30s or so. So there was still that like huge connect, but otherwise on campus, Zimbabwe was probably like the closest that felt like home, being in Southern Africa. And so, yeah, so then at least by the end of the year, I felt like I had made some friends. Yeah.
What was your journey to, I actually never knew this part of your story, that you never went to a boarding school, because I think I'm under the assumption that many African countries have the educational system of sending your kids to boarding school at a certain age. But now I'm realizing, oh well, that's not actually the case.
Right.
So that must have made transitioning even harder, because I mean, it's fun to self-discover your identity, but then there's no other person from your country, there's no other person that knows you.
Right.
What was your journey to becoming known and knowing others like when you arrived?
Right. Yeah, I think it was an interesting journey, because you also don't have anything to compare it to, because the self which you're presenting is the self which people, like, what would feel like growth to me would just be, oh, this is just Lynnley to other people, because they haven't known me prior. Or if I'm becoming worse as a person, again, it's like, oh, this is just Lynnley, because they haven't known me prior. And so I think a huge part of it was stepping out of my comfort zone, so learning to speak to all people. So I wasn't picky about who I'm going to be friends with. I'm going to talk to everyone, and by kind of just casting my net wide, I'm going to start to talk to people and filter. I'm going to start filtering that process as time goes on. And so that's what I did. I casted my net wide. I chose to be a friend to all. Meanwhile, when I was living at home, I was very picky about the people I surrounded myself with. So that was part of the process. And then, and so I think that kind of happened in my first year. And then as time goes by, I think I completely abandoned my sense of being picky, but I think I started to realize what role certain people play in my part. And so even till today, I'm such a huge advocate for being open to everyone, because I feel like at some point, everyone has a place. Sometimes it's reshifting those people in your life, but I feel like from my journey, discovering that everybody has a place, and that also helped me grow into roles which I had never been before. And so like a huge part of it was like, you know, I was strong in my faith, and there was a time in my life where I told myself that I'm only going to be friends with people who are of my faith, but that changed, because I'm like, I don't need to box myself in that way. I can be friends with someone who's completely different from me and see what I can learn from them. So I think just by connecting with different people, it's really helped me grow into different parts of myself, which I never would have if I didn't open myself up. Yeah, so I was kind of forced into that. I don't think everyone gets the chance to be forced into that, but when you're in a place where you know absolutely nobody, you're forced to speak to everybody. Yeah. And I have a funny story to share with that. One of the people I literally met this lady one night volunteering. By the next week, I was like going to her house for 2 nights over a weekend, and she lives out of town. But that was part of like just gonna be open to everybody and see what comes out of it. You know, now you do things with a bit more wisdom, but it's part of the fun too. Yeah. So.
And when you say like knowing, like not knowing, when you say opening yourself up, you mean not boxing yourself to, oh, I'm only going to be friends with Malawians, or oh, I'm only going to be friends with Zimbabweans because I can trust them because they're from Southern Africa. Is that what you mean, or do you mean something else?
Yeah, I think for the first part, I noticed that like, at least on campus, there was, oh, that's the Zimbabwean crew, that's the Nigerian crew, those are the Asians, and everyone kind of boxed themselves in the culture group, which I totally understood because that's what's familiar. But I didn't have that. And so then what that forced me to do is be a part of everyone's cultural context, because I didn't have my own cultural context. And even like, no matter how much I hang out with the Zimbabweans, I knew I wasn't Zimbabwean. And no matter how much I hang out with the Nigerians, I knew that I wasn't Nigerian. And so I think I had the chance to either feel sorry for myself and like kind of resent that, or just open yourself up. And I think that was able to extend further, because I think racially we do that as well. Like, okay, you know, I'm black or I'm an immigrant, therefore I'm only going to hang out with these people because they relate to my story. But some of the people who have been so pivotal to my life have been people of different races, you know? And so I think that's one aspect of, you asked about knowing myself, right?
No, not knowing yourself, but boxing yourself. What did you mean
Right,
by that?
yeah. So I think just like boxing myself from the first superficial layer of like appearances, and then that moved bigger into like issues of faith, people who believe things which are completely different from me. And so as time went by, the deeper the layers got.
Yep.
And I don't think that's about like sharing everything about myself, but then being willing to have relationship. Yeah. So.
Well, we're going to delve into relationships later because I consider you the friendship guru that I know. So I want tips and tricks from you. But I also am curious about your family dynamics and how you navigated the changes in the relationship with your family in your first few years here. How did that relationship evolve, and what did you learn during that time, and what are you still learning?
That's a really good question. So I have both my parents, my mom and my dad, as well as an older brother who's 3 years older than me, and I virtually grew up with very strong family ties. Like from the youngest age I can remember to even now when I go home, we've always had like every meal around the table. I remember growing up, if someone wasn't home, we had to wait for them because the rule was that we eat together, and that was kind of the place where we really got to know each other as a family. We'd talk about our days. If there was offenses, those things got reconciled at the table because, you know, if someone's got the rice on the other side of the table, you have to break the silence and speak to them and ask for it. Yeah. And so that's something which I really learned to love, like just being at the table. And that's where I feel like I gained friendship with my family. And so when I moved away, having that experience of like all of a sudden you're eating alone, there's no one at my table anymore, was really hard. And I remember spending so many days in my room, just like I was pretty much living on my phone, like FaceTiming them all the time or video calls, calling them as I eat, which was unhealthy in a certain extent because by living virtually to them, I was separating myself from my actual reality. And so over time, I had to be willing to maybe slow down that relationship. And maybe slow down is the wrong word, but I had to, it had to change and look different. That, you know what, if I'm going to actually invest in the people who are immediately around me, I have to maybe restructure what spending time with my family looks like. Like it doesn't have to look like a phone call every other day or a phone call every day, because that's actually taking away from time spent with the people around me. And so after my first year, I remember making a cautious decision that maybe I need to call them once a week and face the risk of sharing my day with the people who are immediately around me instead of processing with them, or if something happens, still talking to them about it as well, but also getting input from the people who are immediately around me. And so that dynamic started to shift more, and I remember going through a day or two where it's like, oh, I haven't talked to them. And it's not so much, it's not a bad thing. Like my heart's creating room for other people, for friendships, which I hadn't really created room for before. And so that's restructured, and till date, I think like Sundays have become our day where it's like, okay, this is the family time. But it's been really cool to kind of also create space for other people to look like family. And, you know, even in doing that and creating a separate time, it's also allowed me to create different bonds with maybe my mom or my dad or my brother, instead of just clumping them as like one group. I think it was really necessary to create a space where, okay, we speak as a family on a Sunday, but during the week, the conversations which I have with my brother are going to look different from the ones I have with my mom, and those are going to look different with my dad. And it's kind of made us more intentional in those individual relationships instead of just our group talk. Yeah.
I really, really love that. And I think like the fact that you even have this maturity and insight is profound to me, because
many times it takes a really, really long time for people to realize that, first of all, they haven't developed a friendship with their family, and second of all, they're doing this clumping of, I talk to my family, but everyone's life as you're getting older it's individualizing at such a rapid rate that if you're just clumping as a family, then you're not necessarily being intentional about the one-on-one friendships and the investment to actually get to know what's on the heart of this other person.
Yeah.
That's wanting your family.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is my family, but...
And the group talk doesn't become as necessary anymore. Like if you're catching up with everyone kind of on an individual basis and getting to know them in their stage, it doesn't become as necessary anymore. And I think it's also important because you also learn how different people think. Like when you're talking to all of them together, the dominant person will present their idea, and that's how things are going to be.
You get a flavor of each person's
Exactly. You get a flavor. And it gives you room to develop your own flavor as well.
That's
and
right.
yeah, I think that, I don't want to say separateness, but the importance of creating space also allows you to become your own, independent of your family. That there's certain things, I remember even one of the most trivial fights I had with my family for the very first time, because we'd always been very close-knit, and I remember thinking, what is happening to us? And then realizing that this is actually a healthy step, because if we're all agreeing about everything all the time, there's a bit of unhealth there. It's important for us to kind of develop our own ideas and live in the tension of that we disagree, but we can still come together.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Live in the tension. You're sounding like Brene Brown.
I heard a lot of Brene Brown. Maybe it's talking to you.
Oh, wait, Lynnley.
It's because of the questions you're asking.
So
the questions you're asking.
You know, I just think an 18-year-old coming here, and they're, you know, really excited to start their new life. They're, you know, getting ready for their new school bag and new friends at school, you know, like all of these things that you get so excited about as a teen, but you're not really thinking things like this.
Yeah.
You know, and I sort of think that it should be on the radar.
At 18?
Yeah.
Were you thinking these things at 18? Or?
No, nobody ever brought it up. Nobody ever talked about this. But I think if I had an older sibling, maybe they would have.
Right.
Because, like now, it's something I talk about with my younger siblings, that this has to be on your radar. That, you know, you're always thinking as a teen, oh, like my parents should do this for me, and my parents should do that for me. But your parents are also their own people, and they're getting older.
Right. Yeah.
They have their dreams, they have their heart desires, and maybe their entire world might revolve around their child. But there's so much else to their world that you can get curious about. But if you sit down in a conversation and just let them be the parents that they are, then you miss out on a friendship. And so I think that's why I think it should be on the radar. Like, not something that you delve into, but there's this lady whose blog I read, and she was sharing how, now she's much older, okay? But her father-in-law just passed away. And she was packing up letters of his from his 20s. Now, her father-in-law was well into his 70s or 80s. And they were discovering things about this man that he had never said to them or shared with the children or grandchildren. You know, things about what his 20s was like, the schools he applied to, the schools he got admitted to, you know. It's like, oh my goodness, granddad did that? You know, and so how can you build these types of friendship with family? I think it's an understated thing.
Oh yeah. Because I think the older you get, I was even talking to my friend about this the other day. Her mom is in her 50s and has now decided to adopt a child. And we're talking about how the older you get, the reality is the less you need your parents, right? Yeah. You go home, they don't need to drive you anywhere, you're making your own money. And I think one of the best things we can leave them is friendship. Like, we might not need them as much, but then now our gift to offer is having friendship, you know what I mean? Because friendship, that's something which can grow for eternity.
Yeah.
Dependence has its limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing.
Friendship.
Your favorite topic.
Yeah,
my favorite topic. I love.
These are my favorite topics.
We both love talking about friendship so much.
Friendship. International
much.
students. I mean, you're no longer an international student, but wearing the identity of an international student, did you feel limited in how you could make friends and what you could do for your friends?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that international student cloud
like
still hovers.
Exactly.
Sometimes
It's like a
I don't know.
badge.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever get rid of it, but I feel like it's still there. Yeah, I think I felt limited in that there's a sense in which you know that you're different. Like, you look different. We live in a multicultural city, but we're still the minority.
Yeah.
In a huge way. And so I think, like, staying on campus, I remember there's still, like, I mean, there's lots of integration, but there's still the sense of, like, okay, I'm the black person. Like, I remember feeling like, oh, I didn't know I was black until I moved to Canada. Like, it's so emphasized. So there's that aspect there, which intrinsically made it harder to make friends sometimes, because people look for people they have similarities with. And so if you already look different, it creates already an added barrier into how people are going to even talk to you. Because, I mean, the question's even like, do you even speak English? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's all these different barriers. So I think that was one. Culturally, even within, and I feel like maybe people don't talk about this a lot, but even cross-culturally, maybe because they're not a lot of Malawians, but I found it a bit hard to even break into other cultural social groups, because it was like, well, should I be at this country's function? Because really it's like for their people. And so that was also hard, adding an extra layer. And then I think also as an international student, you feel like you don't really have much to give. Like, you have friends inviting you over for dinner, you have friends inviting you over for holidays, and
you can invite them to your one bedroom.
My one bedroom, where we're gonna eat my, no compliment meal or whatever food I've gotten very cheap. And I think there is I don't know if power dynamic is the right word to say, but I remember feeling, and sometimes I still feel this, like there's a certain burden which I sometimes feel that my friends can't just be friends. They also kind of have to take role of caregiver.
Ooh. Okay.
And I'm sure you felt the same way.
Absolutely.
So even as a student, I think there was always the sense in which my friends just intrinsically felt the need to take care of me, and I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, they know that I'm not here with my family. They know that if I don't show up in my apartment, no one's checking up on me. So then they take on this burden, and it's like an unspoken burden, which I always felt.
Humbling.
Yeah, it's humbling. You just have to kind of receive it. And that would be for friends who aren't internationals. Like, I think among internationals, it's easier because you're doing it for one person, and for another person, you're that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I had a Zimbabwean roommate. If she wasn't home, I knew that it's my job to text her, and, we go through things together where it's like we're both taking care of each other. But when it came to my friends who are from here, yeah, I don't know if it's ever going to go away. And again, not that I'm saying it from an ungrateful place, but I think there's a sense in which any friend who would befriend me as an immigrant would take on this burden of taking care of me. Because I think emotionally I'm probably going to be more needy than the average person, because I don't have as many I don't have that stable family structure. Like, friends are constantly moving, so there's that instability which you constantly have to, you kind of know it in yourself that, okay, at the end of the day, I kind of have to take care of myself. So there's that little psyche which is constantly playing at the back of your mind. starting up, things aren't just given to you or inherited from, you're not just looking through your parents' house before you move out. You're kind of rebuilding. And again, the humbling experience of like, okay, I'm going to receive what my friends give me.
And that's so hard because like if your friend's parents is giving you, they're an adult, right?
Yeah.
But when it's your friend who's like your same age, your same height, like height is a big thing when you're like this age. The same height and everything. And you're like, at least for me, I think I really struggled sometimes to just receive. Like receiving can be difficult.
Oh, totally. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the barriers. And then too, just like, you don't have shared experiences. Like, you don't realize how much of your shared childhood, not even shared childhood memories, but, just things which you relate with because of similar cultural experience. So there's certain things which I could talk about, like the African family experience, which would be common to all people, you know what I mean? And those are some things which maybe are a bit harder to relate with as an immigrant, because you're all coming from different things, different family backgrounds, and also just the layer of yourself where you can't fully be known. Like, you're known from age 18 onwards. And so, I think those are some of the things which make it tricky. And you're also just adapting to a new culture. You're adapting to a new way of life, so many things, whilst also adapting the burden of, like, friendship can be hard already.
Yeah.
So learning how to make friends in a different culture. Yeah. Like, in an African context, I think making friends is a very quick and easy thing. You meet someone once, you're good to go. In other cultures, you have to kind of learn their style. Yeah.
And I think before I ask the next question, about non-international friends taking on the burden of being caretakers as well. And that feeling, it then begins to feel like inadequacy.
Yeah.
Because, this friend has invited me for this friend is driving me to this friend is taking me for visits or taking me places. But what do I have to offer?
Yeah, what am I giving?
Yeah, I in conversations, I'm asking them half the time about new things. So they're also giving me information. So I remember just figuring out how, like, if a friend offers or suggests something that we should do together, the next time there is an unspoken expectation that I should be the one to initiate it. And it just took the longest time for something like that to like click in my mind that okay, well, this is kind of how it works because of the kind of background I had in my own country. And so
how was it in your own country?
You just kind of did it, like if I felt like seeing you today, then I would see you.
Right. You just show up.
Yeah, you just show up, and you just always show up, and it never really, the conversation about who first never quite comes up because there is almost like a constant availability.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it takes a bit of learning and unlearning too, because you don't realize some of these things are so beneath our consciousness that you don't realize, this is a pattern for how I'm interacting.
Yeah, that's so good, because I think even like just going home in December, not making plans, all of a sudden midday your friends are like, oh yeah, we'll be there in an hour, let's go. And it's just like that's how one culture does things, and then the next is you plan, or one person initiates, the other person initiates. You're not seeing each other 3-4 times a week anymore. It's now whenever time allows. And so it's interesting. And even just, I loved what you said about like not knowing what to offer, because I think I remember for the longest time I went to my friend's house 80% of the time, and I didn't really enjoy the idea of friends coming to me, because I was like, what do I have to offer? You know what I mean? Like, I'm living on a budget. Like, what am I going to feed you? I don't have the space. At least I can come to your house and you've got like a TV to watch and all these other different things. So yeah, it's a very humbling experience as an international. Yeah.
And oftentimes students that come, immigrants that come are not ready for that.
Yeah.
Which is why we need to tell stories.
Yeah.
The forgotten art of stories.